Hey, how you doing? Hope you all are doing great. As you've seen in the thumbnail, in this video, we're going to see what if Naruto had harem with Artemis and Athena. This is part 2, and before getting into video, I request you to check the author of this fanfic and show some love and support. Name of the story is The Prince of Olympus by Yagami Nguyen. Do check it out. All details in description. And if you want next part of this series, please leave a like, share, and consider subscribe. Let's get into the video. Also check out Patreon for uncensored spicy content. Link in description. Okay. Naruto scratched the back of he's Pacific Ocean. Good, what about this one? Athena pointed to another area on the huge map she was using to teach Naruto about their world. Around them was multi-books and various kind of comics, which were all for children half of his age. Of course, Naruto couldn't depend on Kurama all the time. So he asked Athena to help him with English since she was the most friendly one among the immortal group. But it wasn't make her an easy teacher, quite opposite to say the least. Naruto totally forgot that this woman was the goddess of wisdom, and his normal behavior wasn't tolerated by Athena in the slightest. This goddess made Irika's strict teaching look like teaching children how to count from 1 to 10. But he learned fast. Athena said that herself. Even the goddess of wisdom was surprised by this. Artemis, however, wasn't. What Athena was teaching was pretty simple. So, of course, the simple-minded idiot understood it pretty fast. It would soon change when they get to the complicate things. Speaking of whom, the huntress, along with her lieutenant, already went hunting at the forest outside of Konoha. In just a few hours after Naruto and his team returned to Konoha and told Tsunade about his upcoming leaving, the news somehow spread all over elemental nations like fire on hay. Of course, the information about Naruto's real parent and his true origin, as well as the immortal group with him, right now was kept at the Triple S top secret information. It would cause chaos all over the countries if they found out that Naruto was the son of 2 powerful gods, and the 2 women staying at Konoha right now as goddess. Not to mention Zoe being an immortal. What the people of elemental nations knew was that he was about to leave for a very long time, going to the faraway lands that were even outside of the elemental nation, and became a wanderer like his late sensei. I heard that you dreamed to become this village's leader, the Hokage, right? Athena asked as she put the book down and asked Naruto. Yeah, to be Hokage. That's my dream. Naruto smiled slightly at first. I just want to be Hokage in order to have people acknowledge me. Grow up, and I found it is more than just acknowledgement. True, Athena nodded her head. She of all people was too familiar with the word leader. You know, you don't have to leave this village forever. With your father's power, he can teleport you to this place whenever he wants. It's just that he can't come to this world due to the oath he made with the Styx long ago. Is the Styx that terrify? For us gods, we won't be affected by her curse. But the curse itself will go to our children, Athena explained. So if they broke that oath, bad fortune will get to you, and that will be the last thing they want to do. Is that so? Naruto nodded his head and stood up. Hey, where are you going? We're still finished this, yet Athena tried to grab him, but the boy already got to the front door of his apartment. Hey, what is the big deal? I already have the clone study for me, he pointed out. Clones filled every single area of his apartment. With a book in each of their hands as copies were helping him speeding up the language learning process. With the speed they were learning and the amount of clones Naruto summoned, he would more or less have the basic grab of the world he was going to come to. To say Athena was shocked was an understatement, because she'd never seen such useful technique before in her immortal life, both in daily learning and war strategies. Athena could read dozens of books per day and perfectly understand them, but the idea of Naruto with his clones could read hundreds, maybe thousands of books, depend on the amount of clones he summoned. Then at the end of the day, all knowledge transfer back to him when the clones disappear was truly terrifying. It wasn't like she didn't believe in this method of learning, and she could teach the clones if she wanted to, but she preferred to teach the original, since everything gone to him anyway. Plus, teaching a whole class with the same face was a little bit creepy, even for a goddess like her. Naruto put on his jacket and opened the door. But the moment he opened it, Naruto-senpai, please don't leave. Please, our village needs you. You're our hero. Don't leave. Please give me your child first before departing. If you really have to go, please accept my gifts first. The hero of the elemental nation instantly slammed his door closed and used his back to block the door. There were a lot of people waiting outside of his apartment, Most of them were girls and young women, and some of them even had gifts in their hands, from foods to various kinds of gifts that he could think of. Well, don't let Artemis see that girls are swooning over you. Athena advised wisely, while explaining a few details to a clone of Naruto. You don't have to tell me. He quickly escaped through the window and headed to the hospital, where Tsunade was waiting with his new hand. Line break. How do you feel, Naruto? Tsunade Senju asked as she held a small board with a pen in her hands, looking at Naruto, who just went through a surgery just fine. Naruto looked at his new hand made from the Shodame Hokage's cells, which was wrapped completely in bandages. Tsunade thought it would be best wrapped his new hands by bandages, since her grandfather's cells combined with the flesh of other could get a very unhealthy feeling for the one who saw it. At least he didn't have the Shodame's face poked out of his arms like Madara or Danzo. The blonde moved his index finger and saw that it reacted to him immediately. Naruto then turned his hand around and tightened his hand into a fist, gripping it tightly, and smirked. The owner of the restaurant, Ichiraka Tucci, wanted to treat his favorite customer-free ramen, but the both of them quickly shut down the ideas and paid for the meal. Irika paid for the meal. Naruto ni ton. Oi! The blonde turned his head and saw Konohamaru running toward him while waving his arm. Hey, Irika-sensei. Konohamaru? He asked in surprise before grinning. How are you? I'm great. The grandson of the late Sandame Hokage grinned before saying, hey, check this out. There is something I want to show you. Really? Yeah, he nodded before running ahead. Hurry. Oi, wait for me. Naruto quickly followed behind. Not forgot to wave goodbye to Irika. See you later, Irika-sensei. The two of them got to Konohamaru's house, and the Genin led Naruto into a room, looked like a storage room with a lot of stuffs and boxes and things that looked pretty old and untouched for a long time, though the place was well kept and tidy. I found this while cleaning the place. The smaller Genin grabbed a big box and put it down to the ground, opened it, and showed Naruto a grinning monkey wearing the Hokage's hat, as well as the costume of the Sandame Hokage. What is this anyway? He looked at it with curious eyes, glancing into the box, and saw a lot of things inside. 2 junks? It's not junks. Konohamaru shook his head. They are all remembrances of Aji-chan. Oh, Naruto nodded his head. So what is this stuff's all about? I think this is your mother's things, Naruto. Chan, his eyes widened in surprise. Aji-chan keeps all her things here. He then reached his hands into the box and pulled out a blue scarf with white stripes here. I think she made this for you. Naruto gently took the scarf from Konohamaru and held it in both hands. Mother, he whispered in English. She made this for him. Kushina Uzumaki, or better known as Hera, made this for him. You should keep them. This is your mother's belongings after all. Okay. Thank you, Konohamaru. Line break. The flame of youth within us is burning brighter than ever, so let's party until both of us can even walk anymore, Lee shouted energetically, with a voice full of power, youth, and put his hand on Naruto's shoulders, leaning against the blonde while holding a bottle of water in his hand. All right, Naruto chuckled nervously, glad that guy had changed the bottle of sake with the bottle of water from Lee's hand, or else he would be screaming and using drunken fists to destroy the whole place. They were at the Ichiraka's ramen again, but this time the place was used to give Naruto the farewell party. He had tried to explain to Tsunade that he wasn't going to go forever and would visit the village from time to time, but the busty Hokage shook it off and forced him to go to the party against his will. All of Naruto's friends and close people were here, from the Rookie 12 and Team Guy to Konohamaru and his squad, with Ebisu sitting at the round table in the middle of the street, which had been closed at both sides in order to have enough spaces for the people invited to the party for the party, laughing with each other. Guy and Kakashi and the teachers of each team with Irika were talking with each other, with the former sitting on a wheelchair and still hadn't fully recovered yet but still came here, which Naruto very grateful about. Even the Kages were here, sitting at the table while talking with each other. The Sand siblings were having a hard time, trying not to get sucked too much into the party, but he could see that Shikamaru and Temari was pretty close with each other now. The Immortal Maidens were also invited, and they currently sitting at a lone table at the corner. They would never come here if not for Naruto forcing them to come. With Athena was the first goddess, since she was curious about the villages, and Artemis and Zoe had no choice but followed her as well, since Athena was the only one who could speak Japanese. Misunderstanding in language could cause unnecessary trouble. Thank you, Ino. Sai nodded gratefully and opened his scroll to store the next departing gifts his friends gave him, which he had received all night. The party continued for the next 3 hours with a lot of things happened. Lee finally got his hand on Sake, and the next things they knew, Guy's favorite student was dancing around while moving his body wildly in the drunken fist, destroying everything he caught sight of and sent anyone who tried to stop him flying until Artemis snapped her finger, turning him into a creature that resembled a rabbit and antelope horns, much to everyone's shock. But she did turn him back to normal after everyone secured him, to make sure he wouldn't destroy the restaurant if he is turned back to normal. Naruto sat opposite from Sasuke, who liked him already had a new hand. They talked about their own intention in the future, separating themselves from the wild party. However, when the party was about to end, Naruto caught sight of a young woman sitting at Team 8's table. Unlike everyone who had already drunk and laughing, she was having her head down and her eyes looked sad, hands gripping a small box tightly on her lap. Since the funeral, he'd never seen Hinata Hyuga looked so sad like that. "Excuse me, Sasuke." Sakura-chan stood up from their seat and walked toward Hinata's table. But Sasuke was stopped when Sakura put a finger on his lips. She was smiling while looking at Naruto. Naruto stood at Team 8's table for a moment. It seemed that Hinata still not realized he was standing behind her, yet, so he spoke up. "Hey Hinata, can I sit here?" The girl's head snapped up, and she turned around to look at him with wide eyes. "In Naruto can." She stuttered in surprise, "Of course you can." And he did, sitting at the chair next to Hinata. They stayed silent for a moment as neither party decided to be the first one who start the conversation. Getting uncomfortable with the silence between them, Naruto decided to speak up first. "So Hinata/Naruto-kun." However, Hinata also decided to break the silence as the two looked at each other for a moment. "You once again," they said at the same time, but the light lavender eyes beauty quickly said. "You go first, Naruto-kun." "Oh, already nodded. Why didn't you enjoy the party and sit here all alone?" he asked, looking at her. I don't feel like partying tonight," she whispered. "Naruto-kun." "Yeah, are you really going to leave?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," was all his reply. "I don't know for how long, but I will make sure to ask my dad bring me back to visit you guys every chance I got." Even himself was unsure of that. "Sorry, Yudo-kun, but I need to go now." Hinata then suddenly stood up and ran away with the box held close to her chest. In just a moment, Naruto could see a small glint of light from her eyes. It was tears. Dumbfounded, Naruto sat there questioning himself about what just happened, scratching the back of his head in confusion. His eyes stayed on Hinata. "Sai." Naruto turned around and saw Sasuke and Sakura standing behind him. "You will never learn, do you?" "I'll learn what?" Naruto asked with a slight forced smile. "Follow her, dumbass." Sakura shouted and slammed her hand on the table, making it broke into pieces and made the foods and plates fell down to the ground. Naruto flinched and jumped out of his chair. "Hi!" he shouted, spinning around, and went after Hinata as quick as he could. With his speed, he quickly caught up to her, but Hinata already got into her house and closed the door behind her. "Oi, Hinata," he shouted, slamming his hands against the door rapidly. "Please open the door." There was no answer. "If you don't open the door, I will break in." He was going to be in so much trouble with Hayashi after this. But then again, he wasn't going to stay in this village for long, so luckily, he would escape the usual stoic Hyuga's wrath. And it was about time he test his new hand's ability to use ninjutsu. Bringing his hand back, Naruto summoned an orange Rasengan in his hand. It was a lot easier to do it with only one hand than before, and the blonde couldn't help but grin at that. "I will count to 3. If you don't open it, I will break in." Maybe this method was a bit extreme. 1, 2, 3, he thrust his hand forward. However, right at that moment, the door opened. But the girl who opened it wasn't Hinata, but her sister Hanabi. Shit. He stopped midway and deactivated the jutsu before it could touch Hanabi. "Naruto-senpai?" The girl looked up. "What was that?" "Nothing." He hid his hand behind his back quickly, while the other scratching the back of his head, laughing forcefully. "Nothing at all, Hanabi-chan. I heard your voice, so I came to open the door," she explained. "You want to come in?" "Ne-sama, just returned home." Already walked in and followed behind Hanabi. "Sorry for not coming to the farewell party, Naruto-senpai." Hanabi glanced at him and said apologetically, "Don't worry about it." He shook his head and followed Hanabi until they were in front of Hinata's room. "Ne-sama, Naruto-senpai is here to see you." She knocked the door slightly. "Ne-sama." "She is not inside," Naruto suddenly said. He could feel somebody else in this mansion other than Hanabi, but they wasn't in the room. "I will go to her." "You go to your room." "All right, Hanabi." "All right, then." The young Hyuga waved slightly. Naruto got to the place appeared to be a garden of the Hyuga mansion. the place filled with plants and all the kinds of flowers he could think of. He could hear the faint sobbing sound and moved toward that direction as quickly yet gently as he could, knowing full well that Hinata was there, and he didn't want her to run away again. True enough, the girl was having her head resting against her arms, with both of them put on her knees as she was sitting while leaning her back against a tree. The box was being held closely to her. "Hey," Hinata-chan. Naruto kneed down next to her and said with a gentle tone, "You all right?" The dark blue-haired Hyuga princess looked up and turned her eyes at Naruto, showing her beautiful lavender eyes, which were full of tears to Naruto. Looking at her now, the blonde felt like he was really an ass now. Then suddenly, Hinata threw herself into his chest, crying out loudly. Naruto was surprised by her sudden action, but his eyes then softened and gently brought his arms around her, hugging her tightly to his chest. "It's okay now. I'm here," he said gently running his hand through her hair. "This is going to be a long night," he thought. Line break. "This is for you, Naruto-kun," Hinata said with her head resting on his shoulder. The both of them was sitting close to each other while leaning their back against the tree. She handed him the small box, which Naruto took it with both of his hands. "Thank you, Hinata-chan," he smiled. He had decided to wait until he got to the new world, but everything had its exception, so he would make one with Hinata's gift. He reached his hand inside and felt something very soft like clothes or something like that. Naruto then grabbed a hold of it and pulled out. It was a long red scarf, and it looked very familiar. "This is, you remember Naruto-kun?" she asked quietly, closing her eyes. "That is the scarf you wore many years ago, on a snowy day, when we were both preparing to enroll the academy. You came and saved me from a group of bullies." Memories returned to his mind. Now Naruto remembered that day, and the scarf in his hand, though you failed and easily beaten. "And your scarf trampled over by them. I asked you to keep it, right?" Naruto asked, chuckling to himself. He was so weak back then since it was ruined. "Yes. And you kept it till this day." He looked at the scarf. "And you even knitted it back again." "Yes, Naruto-kun," she whispered. "Strange, in just a day, and I got two scarf," he chuckled, pulled out from his pocket the green one of his mother, showing it to Hinata. "My mother made this to me before. You know, she died and returned to her world." "Is that so?" Hinata put her hand on the scarf and gently moved her hand on it. She could tell that the person who made it put a lot of effort into making the scarf, just like her when she knit Naruto's scarf. "Thank for the gift again, Hinata." He smiled at her thought. "It would be weird if I wear them both at once, so maybe he would change them to a regular basic." "Naruto-kun, you said you will return." She then moved her head back slightly to look at him. "Are you really mean it?" "Of course, Hinata. I mean it." He nodded. "No matter where I go, this place will always be my home. To me, there are a lot precious people here. Those that I consider my family: Sasuke, Sakura-chan, Kakashi-sensei, Bachan, Iruka-sensei." He looked up, leaning the back of his head against the tree. "So of course I will be back. There is no way I can leave this place for long. Every weekend if I can help it." "I'm glad." Hinata smiled softly and leaned her head against his shoulder once again. The two of them stayed like that for the rest of the night, enjoying each other's company. Line break. "All set?" "All set." Naruto nodded his head, gathering the rest of the scrolls, which was containing his ninja's gears, weapons, and of course the gifts everyone gave him, and put it into his backpack. He walked to the table and took the old picture of the Team 7 when they were just past Kakashi's bell test ad, put it into his bag, checking every drawers to make sure he didn't leave anything back. Naruto opened the last drawer and saw Sasuke's old head protector. Freezing for a moment, he then reached his hand out and grabbed the thing, put it into his pocket, and threw the backpack on his shoulder after zipping the zipper up. "All right, let's go," Naruto said to Athena, who was standing by the door waiting for him. The two of them walked to the main gate of Konoha in silence. He was going to leave the village very soon in the morning, so there weren't many people currently on the street of Konoha. The two regrouped with Artemis and Zoe after the two of them had finished packing up their things, some of which were the fur of animals Artemis said could only be found at this world. When they got to the main gate, Naruto caught sight of his best friend, standing with his back leaning against the gate. "Can't say I'm not surprised to see you here," Sasuke, Naruto said with a slight grin. His hand reached into his pocket and grabbed Sasuke's forehead protector. "I thought I would be the first person to say goodbye," the Uchiha said, "but I guess I was wrong." He stepped forward and stood in front of Naruto. "So I guess this is it, huh?" "Yeah. When I return to visit Konoha," Naruto said, "I doubt that you will be here to greet me." "Do you really have to leave?" Naruto asked, pulling what he was holding out of his pocket. "Sakura-chan will be sad, you know." "I know I have to do this." Sasuke shook his head to see how this world really worked and redempt for my sins." Naruto sighed before his face spread it out on a small smile. He then brought the forehead protector up and gave it to Sasuke. "I think this is yours." Sasuke grabbed it with a nod. "You can leave this world to me, Konoha, Fire Country, Elemental Nation." Sasuke then smiled. "If you need any helps, you know where to find." "I know. Take care, Naruto." Sasuke said loudly. "You too." With a final nod, Naruto stepped up and stood beside the immortal group. Sasuke then took a few steps back to make some distance with them. "Let's go," Naruto said, earning a nod from Athena. "Okay, then." She then looked at the sky. "We're ready, father." "Father?" Naruto asked in confusion. But the next moment, a lightning bolt shot out from the sky and struck the four of them. In a blink, the group was gone. "Why do they have to be here anyway?" Zeus asked blankly as all of his children, including the children he had through affairs with immortal women, were present in the throne room, the place where he and Hera planned to have a warm welcome for Naruto. Speaking of his wife, she was pacing back and forth around the throne room, looking nervous and worried. He could understand what his wife was feeling, as he was also experiencing the same feelings but hid it better than her. What if something goes wrong? What will Naruto do when he reunites with them? What is he going to say to them? For all the years Naruto had to live alone without his family in the elemental nations, he knew that Hera was also having similar thoughts. Damn man, Apollo was chatting merrily with Hermes with his usual shiny smile displayed for all to see. Much to their annoyance, I don't know what to say, but I think we're going to have so much fun hanging out with Lil Fishcake. You know, I think it's about time we did our jobs as big brothers and take our lil brothers to a brothel. A 17 years old hormonal teenager? Yeah, it's good to be young. The god of messengers nodded his head, and Naruto seems pretty fast too. I want to challenge him for a run. Already his sandals flapped their tiny wings rapidly while the Olympian god grinned. Dionysus, as usual, was reading a wine magazine and really not that interested in Naruto. Being here was just an excuse for him to get away from Camp Half-Blood as long as possible. Babysitting a bunch of disrespectful demigods could get boring in just a few hours after he received his punishment. Demeter was sitting beside the goddess of the hearth, Hestia, who was tending the main hearth. Aside from Zeus and Hera, Hestia was one of the only goddesses that really wanted to get to know Naruto as a family member, which wasn't a surprise since it was her main domain. Demeter, however, "Do you think that he loves cereal, sister?" Demeter asked, clearly unaware of the blonde's love for a more unhealthy kind of food, even if ramen noodles were made of cereal. "I don't know, sister." The kind goddess shook her head with an amused smile. At the far side of the throne room, sitting on their respective thrones, were the rest of the Olympians who were present in the Hall of the Gods. "Hephaestus, I need you to fix these weapons up for me," Ares said loudly and dropped a magical bag full of weapons, from the traditional ones like swords, spears, shields to the more modern, heavy weapons like machine guns, explosives, RPGs. "I need them in the best condition. When little brother arrives," he said with a bloodthirsty grin. "Why should I?" Hephaestus grumbled, picking up a spear which had many cracks adorning it. He really wondered what Ares did these days when peace was a lot more spread out than before for his weapons to end up in the state you're going to give them to him as a welcome home gift. "No, I want to have enough firearms to show that Blondie, who is the bigger man here." Hephaestus just shook his head. Since he currently didn't have anything to do, he took the bag and began to fix Ares' weapons. The last Olympian, however, was in her own little world. Aphrodite was looking at herself in a mirror, with her hand holding a pink lipstick and gently moving the tip on her kissable lips. "What are you doing?" Ares asked his lover with an annoyed tone. "I'm making myself perfect," Aphrodite said as she winked at herself in the mirror. "The makeup was applied flawlessly. The Prince of Olympus is going to arrive, so I can't make myself look bad. Can I?" She giggled to herself. It was bad enough that Naruto had showed himself to be a better warrior than Ares, as much as he hated to admit that, and never will. The blonde also caught Aphrodite's interest as well. Not only was she making herself look even sexier than their daily routine, but she also took to her true form. But this power only applied to mortals, demigods, and minor gods, as Olympians could see through her power and get to see her true form, which at the founding of Olympus had driven the gods mad with lust. She was more beautiful than any mortal's perception of beauty. Breathtaking wasn't the right word to describe such an example of physical perfection. With deep sky blue eyes and long, curly golden blonde hair that flowed like a waterfall on her back and the sides of her beautiful visage, the latter which was perfectly decorated with magical makeup that seemed to enhance the woman's beauty even further. She was dressed in a skin-tight hot pink backless dress that hugged her otherworldly voluptuous figure and showed off her sexy curves, especially her wide hip and round ass. The dress was tied together behind her neck, with the upper part just enough to cover the front part of her large breasts and left the rest of her cleavage for all to see. "Babe, you don't have to look perfect for a little, pretty boy who doesn't have a single drop of ichor in his veins," he tried to reason with her, leaning over and put his massive muscular right arm on the armrest of her throne, showing off his muscles. "You do know that you have me, right, baby?" Even with these muscles, Naruto still has more charm than you dear. The smirk on Aries' face instantly dropped after hearing Aphrodite said that he's so handsome, not to mention so adorable with those whisker marks. It just gives him a feral look. It's so appealing. And from what I've seen, he sure has lots and lots of stamina, Aphrodite daydreamed. This was just more reason for the god of war to punch Naruto's face in. "Father, we're ready." Athena's voice rang inside Zeus's head, which snapped him out of his musings. The master bolt instantly appeared in his hand, and Zeus shot a massive bolt of lightning to the sky, making the other Olympians look at him in surprise before understanding what was about to happen. Naruto Uzumaki was about to come. About a minute later, a blue lightning bolt shot out from the sky and struck the throne room's floor. Those who were standing near it instantly backed off to make the room for the ones who just arrived. Artemis and Athena were the first ones to appear from the lightning bolt, followed closely by Zoe. Naruto, however, fell face first onto the ground, crashing into the hard floor. His clothes were singed and his hair became even spikier and blackened at the tips. Transportation like this, while very cool, made Naruto feel like Sasuke just punched him with a full-powered Chidori, and the fact that he wasn't used to it made him fall and look like an idiot. "I'm good." He instantly got on his knees to his belongings, which had fell out of his backpack, before standing up with a large grin. "I'm good." "Whoa. Damn." His eyes were as wide as dinner plates, totally amazed at the sight of the place he was in, which was big enough to make the Chunin exam arena look like a small closet. 12 gigantic chairs with different kind of designs, the thrones of the gods, stood in a U shape around the hearth. Even standing at a distance, Naruto could feel a massive amount of energy radiating coming from those thrones, which surprised him. This whole place has yet to blow up and could withstand such a powerful amount of energy. "Naruto!" The blonde was surprised once again when a beautiful brown-haired woman threw herself at him with tearful eyes, wrapping her hands around his neck and hugging him tightly against her body, openly crying. Normally, Naruto would have blushed because of the sudden close contact with such a beautiful woman like her. But at a moment, a sudden familiar wave of warmth washed over him. Slowly looking down at her, he gasped, "And Mom?" "Yes. Yes, it's me, Naruto." She looked at him and put a hand on his cheek. "It's your mother, my baby boy." Naruto wanted to smile, to cheer in glee, but all he could do was let tears fall out from his eyes as he hugged the goddess who called herself his mother, his arms wrapped tightly around her. He had waited so long for this moment, to be able to feel the motherly love from his mother, who a month ago he thought was truly dead. A little moment in his mindscape wasn't enough to tell her how much he loved his mother, his family. "You're wearing the scarf I made for you." Naruto looked at the green scarf he had wrapped around his neck. "I found it a few days ago." Naruto nodded his head. "Hey Mom, where is Dad?" He pulled back and asked his mother, using his right hand to wipe away his tears. "Is he here?" "Yes, my son. He's here." Haran nodded her head, letting go of her youngest child, and stepped aside. Edo-san, the king of the gods, slowly approached his son with a smile on his face. Like Hera, while his appearance looked nothing like Minato Namikaze, he could feel the familiar feeling of his father coming from the man standing in front of him. The same feeling he felt when he met the Yondaime in his mindscape during Pain's invasion, and when his father came to his aid with the previous Hokages during the Fourth Shinobi War. This man was his dad, and he knew it. "Hey Pops." Naruto grinned widely, walking towards Zeus. Zeus spread his arms a little to welcome his son in a fatherly hug. However, the instant Naruto got in front of his dad, Zeus found his son's fist buried in his stomach and delivered a massive blow into his abdomen, knocking the wind out of the king of the gods. "And Naruto, what the hell?" He coughed. His son really knew how to punch. It had been ages since Zeus received a hard blow like that, and he would never think that his youngest son would be the one who struck him this hard. That's for sealing Kurama into me. If someone ever asked him, Naruto would say that punching his father in the gut for the second time felt extremely good was an understatement. Well, I think I do deserve. But he wasn't able to finish that sentence because Naruto's bandaged right hand suddenly engulfed in Kurama's chakra and went straight at his face, sending the proud and prideful king of the gods himself flying across the room, straight into the opposite wall with so much force that it shook the entire place violently. And that's for cheating on mom, bastard. Naruto said, loud enough so that Zeus from the other side of the hall could hear him loud and clear. Hera didn't know what to say. Her son just punched her husband in the face with so much force it sent the most powerful god flying like he was just a simple punching bag. A side of hers was so satisfied to have her beloved son stand up for her like that, which never happened before with her other sons, but another side of hers wanted to scold her son for what he did. Damn, Apollo and Hermes said at once with dropped jaws, turning their eyes back and forth between Naruto and a stumped Zeus, who was wiping the ichor from the corner of his mouth and checking his slack jaw, which appeared to be punched out of the place by his human child. Wow. Did you see that, Kurama? Naruto said in amazement while looking at his right hand, which had returned to normal. I think that with this new hand, I really don't need to transform my whole body to fight. I agree, but was it necessary to do that? Kurama asked, sighing boringly. Well, but he was stopped when his mother swatted him on the back of his head, slightly. No fighting between family, understand? She told him with a motherly glare, the kind of eyes a mother gave to her child when she caught him with his hand in the cookie jar. Huh. Yeah, but he does deserve it for cheating on you, Naruto said firmly. Athena told me everything after she called Dad father. I knew something was off with these gods thing. During the teleportation, Naruto was able to force the goddess of wisdom to tell him everything, and to say he was shocked to know that his father was literally a man-whore was an understatement. Cheating on his mother for thousands of years without stopping. Having a punch to the face from his son was the least kind of punishment Naruto could think about. So you know? Naruto nodded his head without even turning around to look at Zeus. From now on, you better watch your move, old man, or I'm gonna kick your ass. Naruto turned around and glared at him with a smirk before turning around to look at his mother. So, Mom, can you introduce me to the rest of our big family? He asked with a happy smile. A palm then collided with his upper back in greeting as he stumbled forward to regain balance. Looking at the side, the blonde saw a handsome-looking teenager about 18 or 19, with sandy blonde hair and outdoorsy good looks, a bright and playful smile, and a look that just screamed movie star. The guy was very tall, taller than him by almost a head, and was dressed in jeans, loafers, and a sleeveless t-shirt. But what surprised him the most was that his face greatly resembled a certain feisty moon goddess. Yo, little bro, Apollo said with a bright smile. I take that you already know little sis over there. He pointed his thumb at Artemis, who was crossing her arms underneath her chest, but instantly turned to glare daggers at Apollo. Apollo, for the 1,000th time, we're twins. The goddess of the moon scolded. Plus, mother birthed me first. Whatever, little sis. Don't call me that. Naruto chuckled a little at the brother and sister's bickering. Well, good to see you, Apollo. Naruto grinned at him. The name's Naruto. I know, Fishcake, Apollo said with a hint of humor in his tone, and held out his fist, which Naruto punched it lightly. Now we're talking, guys. Shinning smile stood no chance against this guy's bright smile. Naruto was sure of it. So, I take it we're half-brothers? Naruto grinned at him. That's cool with me. He didn't have any problem with Zeus' other children. It just made the family he always wanted bigger. How do you do, Naruto, a middle-aged man with a muscular build, curly black hair, blue eyes, elfish features, and a sly grin approached him. He was wearing a black suit and his shoes. The coolest thing about this man Naruto could think about was his shoes, which had a pair of tiny wings flapping slowly on each of them. I'm Hermes, god of messengers, astronomy, thieves, roads, swordsmanship, and speed. Yeah, Athena forced me to remember every single detail. Naruto nodded his head, glancing at the goddess of wisdom a little before turning his eyes down Hermes' shoes with excitement. Can those things, let you fly or something? You mean like this? Naruto whistled when Hermes' body was lifted off the ground and floated on the air with the help of his magical shoes. Where can I find one of those? Naruto asked, amazed. Suddenly, a thick and powerful scent of perfume hit his nose. The kind of perfume Ino and the more girlish girls of Konoha would use, but about 100 times or so stronger? What do you want, Aphrodite? Naruto could hear annoyance in his mother's voice as the most beautiful and attractive woman he had ever seen in his life slowly approached him with an alluring smile on her face. How cold of you, Hera, the goddess of love, giggled. Her blue eyes fixed on Naruto. Well, hello there. Handsome, her voice was sweet. He could hear Artemis sniggering mockingly behind him. Any advice about her, Kurama? Naruto asked his partner. This woman smelt exactly like trouble. She made his instincts go haywire. Athena never mentioned anything about this woman during her lectures, and since she definitely didn't forget to, there must be a reason when the goddess of wisdom decided to not tell Naruto about something. Let's see. The fox scratched his chin. Slightly, your mother once told me about her. Aphrodite? The goddess of love and beauty. Oh, Naruto nodded his head. His mind replayed Artemis and Zoe's reaction when he asked about whether or not they had a love gods. And also of lust and sexuality. Naruto nearly fell face first to the ground when it came to keep a close relationship. Maybe she is only second to your dad. Hera always complained about her. She cheated on her husband. Who is your brother? Kurama groaned. These humans' relationships were too complicated for his liking for her lover, who is also your brother. I think I get it now. Naruto, at the outside world, slammed his fist into the palm of his other hand. Surprise everyone, I think I read about these kind of girls in a book Athena lent me. Oh, and? Aphrodite asked sultrily, slowly closing the gap between them. Let's see. The right word is flawed. No to score. Score. Athena instantly knew what Naruto was going to say. Whore? That's it. You're a whore. He declared like it was the most obvious thing in the world, leaving everyone stunned and froze in absolute shock. Aphrodite felt like her world was just shattered right in front of her eyes after hearing Naruto calling her that, a whore. She had been called that many times before, to the point she was now completely immune to insults. But those insults were never said by a male. Most of the time it was Artemis, never a mortal man like him. And that pissed her off to no end. Sorry? She then used her charm speak. But what did you call me again, Naruto dear? Kurama roared out in laughter before shaking his head, reacting rapidly and negating the effect of the goddess of love's charm speak. She is using her godly power to charm you, Naruto. The fox warned, be careful. Sorry, but that won't work on me. He took a step forward and used his index finger to flick Aphrodite on her forehead, strong enough to push her down to the ground and stun her momentarily. Aphrodite gasped in shock when she fell on her backside. Her charm speak failed. Her charm speak never failed before. Not even the gods themselves could withstand the effect of her full-powered charm speak. If you know what is good for you, Aphrodite, she heard Hera's voice talking to her through telepathy. Stay away from Naruto. He isn't someone you can play around with. The goddess of love bit her lips. It seems that she would have to wait for another opportunity. Naruto turned his head to the next god who was slowly approaching him. He was a huge and ugly lump of a man with his shoulders at different heights and a huge, bulging, misshapen head and his leg in a creaking steel brace, with a wild brown beard that sparks fire from time to time. He was the only Olympian he saw so far to show such extreme physical injuries. However, he was also very muscular. His face is red, lumpy, and covered with welts. Hello, Naruto greeted him politely. Hello, Naruto. Hephaestus' voice was deep, booming, and rumbly. I'm Hephaestus, and I'm your brother. His eyes glanced at Hera slightly, but quickly returned to Naruto quickly. Naruto saw bitterness inside his eyes, and as you can see, But Naruto stopped him by stepping forward and wrapped his arms around his brother's neck in a brotherly hug, grinning from ear to ear as he held the god of smiths and craftsmanship in his arms. Hephaestus was stunned and looked at Naruto in confusion. None of his siblings, especially a certain warmonger, had showed this much brotherly affection towards him like Naruto. You have no idea how much I wanted to meet my, well, full-blooded siblings, he chuckled when he saw Zeus look down and guiltily. But what happened to you? You seem like someone who had been ran over by a train. Well, as I was saying, Hephaestus said, his usual permanent scowl disappeared. I'm not the most handsome kind of gods here. Nah, you're cool to me. Naruto patted the man's muscular arm playfully. I heard that you're very smart and talented in making things. How cool is that? Never judge a book by his cover. Hephaestus might be ugly, but he was extremely talented and could make almost anything. Having such a cool brother like that was something he always wished for in a family. Well, if you say so, Brother, a smile made it to his face when Hephaestus nodded his head at his younger brother. Hey mama's boy voice laced with arrogance made Naruto turn his head slightly to see a rather tall, handsome man with scarred cheeks and an oiled crew cut. He wore black jeans, combat boots, a leather duster, and muscle shirt with a bulletproof vest and an iron padlock necklace. Red-tinted wraparound sunglasses to cover his flame-filled eye sockets. Come and greet your big brother. I take it that you're Ares. Naruto said blankly before a blank smile spread out on his face. Well, hello. Show some respect to your elders. Little punk Ares pulled out his massive knife and twirling it in his hand. The only reason I didn't get you right here for that disrespectful greeting is Mom and Dad's presence here. And the only reason I didn't do anything to you yet was because Mom doesn't want violence between family members, Naruto said lazily. I like that kind of tone. Watch your steps, punk. He walked towards Aphrodite and grabbed her by the arm. Let's go, Diet. Hey, let go of me. Aphrodite shook her hand from the strong grip of her lover, feeling rather annoyed by his sudden action. So, I take that she's your wife, nay? He only had 2 older brothers, and one of them was trying to pull the beautiful love goddess with him. It was not that hard to figure it out. Yes, she is, Hephaestus grumbled. He used to love her a lot, but after 3,000 years of being cheated on constantly, he didn't feel any love to the love goddess anymore and would happily divorce to her if his mother allowed him to. Too bad for him, thought. Hera was the goddess of marriage, and there would be absolutely no chance for him to have their marriage bond broken. Ares left the place while mumbling about going to the mortal world to find a woman, as Aphrodite had refused to go back to his place this time. And nice to see you too, brother, Naruto shouted over. The love goddess turned around and winked at Naruto, who just laughed forcefully at that. From what Kurama told him, Aphrodite was a woman with a happy-go-lucky attitude and immunity to insults similar to him. She was someone who usually just shrugged off insults and lived her days without caring about it one bit. Naruto could already see himself in a future with Aphrodite, poking her head into every single corner of his life, as the goddess seemed to take a liking to him already. Oh, how right he was? Forget about it. Now Naruto looked around. Where is this super kind goddess of the hearth and family who Athena told me about? I think she was talking about me. Another goddess walked toward him gracefully from the hearth, followed closely by a woman with long blonde hair the color of ripe wheat, and wore a bright green dress with a dark cape, which gave her the appearance of a fresh plant breaking through fertile earth whenever she moved. She also wore a crown of woven corn leaves and adornments of poppies, and she had a scent of a rainstorm over a field of jasmine. Unlike Aphrodite, whose beauty seemed otherworld, the goddess of love didn't have the kind of natural beauty Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, had. She was sweet and beautiful in an unpretentious way. She had an honest smile, warm brown eyes, and black hair that framed her face in ringlets. She wore a plain, modest brown dress and kept her hair tucked under a linen shawl. Aunt Hestia, right? Naruto smiled and hugged the black-haired woman tightly, who welcomed him with a tight hug. Welcome to Olympus. Nephew, she smiled warmly at him after pulling back, and welcome to the family. Thank you. Aunt Hestia. Naruto smiled and turned to the last woman. And your Aunt Demeter, right? Why, yes, I am the goddess of the harvest. Nodded her head. Tell me, Naruto, do you like cereal? She asked hopefully. No. Truthfully, it is one of my least favorite meals. Naruto shook his head, and Demeter was taken aback by his declaration. I like ramen more. He smiled sheepishly. Did I say something wrong? Of course not, Naruto. Hestia shook her head with a kind smile. She is just upset that you don't like cereal, that is all. Ahem. Zeus cleared his throat now. If everyone is done with their greetings and introductions, I would like you to all return to your duty. We can't leave the world running without the gods watching over it. Then I will return to the hunt. Father Artemis was the first one to say that to the king of gods and put a hand on her lieutenant's shoulder, flashing both of them away in a silver flash. Naruto, if you need any help, feel free to ask. Athena told the blonde, who nodded gratefully before flashing away as well. See you later. Handsome Aphrodite approached Naruto and tried to kiss his cheek goodbye, but the blonde blocked her lips with his bandaged hand. You're no fun at all. She was playfully playing hard to get with that. She teleported away in a thick cloud of perfume, returning to her duty of spreading love and broken hearts all over the world. Naruto coughed while using his hand to blow the perfume away. Hard to get. He didn't even understand what she mean by that. Naruto, if you want any kind of ninja weapon made or just want to chat, feel free to come over my forge. Hephaestus offered. Are you kidding me? Of course I will. He then reached his hand into his pocket and pulled out a kunai. Check this out. I don't think this world has this kind of metal, so have a look at it. The god of smiths nodded his head and disappeared. Oya, I think it is about time I ride my baby around the world again, Apollo said cheerily to Naruto. Sayonara bro. Naruto chuckled when the god flashed away in a blinding flash. If you need ant delivery made, or just want to hang out, contact me, Hermes said, cause I'm the fastest being alive. He teleported away as well. My place is here. Hestia walked toward the main hearth and sat down. You three should go somewhere else to have a family bonding moment. You don't have to tell us, sister, both Zeus and Hera said at the same time before leading Naruto out of the throne room. Line break, damn, Naruto muttered, standing at the cliff of Olympus with his hand leaning against the barrier, looking at the city below. You mean this mountain actually floats in the sky? Even from this place, high above the clouds, Naruto could hear the sound of bustling in the city, with strange vehicles and people in strange outfits. He was looking at the city from the cliff of Olympus with his father, who was standing next to him with his back leaning against the barrier. Hera, who decided to let Naruto have a few moments with his father, who didn't give a very good first impression to his son, had gone somewhere else and would return later. Naruto could also see a lot of tall buildings, called skyscrapers, from this position as well, actually amazed by the capability of the humans of this world. Maybe when he returned to visit Konoha, he would bring the idea of making skyscrapers back with him to the elemental nations as well. Yes, Olympus is originally located on Mount Olympus in Greece. It has steadily moved over to the west, following the heart of Western civilization over the centuries. Zeus nodded his head. Instead of being located on a physical mountain, it is a metaphysical duplicate. This mountain does not connect with the ground and cannot be detected by mortals due to the mist. The two stood in silence for a moment before Naruto decided to speak up. Dad, can I ask you a question? Of course, my son. Why did you cheat on Mom? Naruto asked. His voice remained as calm as possible. Was she not enough for you? I had nothing to say for my actions in the past. Naruto Zeus shook his head. I fathered too many children with other women. Athena, Artemis, Apollo, Hermes. But you, Naruto the god, turned to his son with a smile. You're my redemption to her. After everything I had done, Hera agreed to start everything over with me. Not as immortals, but as two normal humans. He then chuckled. Well, not entirely normal, but we did start over. I came to love her again. More than ever. Zeus looked at Hera, who was running toward them with a basket in her hand. We got each other once again with the love of two mortals, unaffected by Aphrodite, because we formed it in a different dimension. You're the result of that love. All right, Dad. Naruto smiled at him. And you better keep it that way, or else a punch won't be the only thing you will get from me. Okay, guys. Hera smiled at them, kneeling on a colorful picnic sheet and the basket next to her. Come here. Zeus looked at Hera in confusion, while Naruto just grinned and sat down in front of his mother with his legs crossed. Come on, Dad. Come here, Naruto called him. I made some of your favorite ramen. Naruto. Hera reached her hand inside the basket and pulled out a few bowls of ramen, and since she already took out about a dozen of them, the basket must be a magical thing to be able to contain that many. And since I don't really know which ones you like the most, I made everything I can think of. Wow, this many, Mom? Naruto asked, picking up a bowl, and took a sniff. And it smells good too. You made this yourself in such a short time? Of course I made them myself. Naruto looked at her. Okay. I did make them with the help of magic, but I didn't just summon them. Now eat up, Naruto. Hera smiled. Eat and tell us everything. Naruto opened the first bowl of ramen and took the chopsticks from his father, starting to eat while retelling his story at Elemental Nations. From the day he became a genin to the day Sasuke left the village, then Naruto and his friends nearly lost their life to the Yanin Shu if not for the help of the Sand siblings and Lee. He retold his fight with Sasuke at the Valley of the End and his departure with Jiraiya for the 2.5 years training trip. Hera scowled a little when she heard the part where Jiraiya tried to make Naruto read his Aika Paradise series while his father just laughed it off while shaking his head. Naruto used to think about what was it felt like to have a family that you could return to, a real family, where you could share the most important moments with them. And he finally understood that feeling. Later, clang, clang. The sound of a hammer hitting hot metal could be heard all over the forge of Hephaestus. You work here? Naruto asked as he picked up a celestial bronze sword from the basket full of weapons made in the same metal. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, and after saying goodbye to his parents who returned to their duty after their unofficial picnic, he began to wander around Olympus, and Hephaestus's forge was the first place he visited. What is this metal anyway? Celestial bronze. The powerful metal used by the gods. Hephaestus explained it is mined by the Cyclops from Mount Olympus. The ore is shaped by tempering the metal in Mount Etna and cooling it in the river Lethe. I take that it's hard to make. Naruto swung the sword around. Try stabbing yourself. Hephaestus returned to his work. Because our parents gave birth to you in artificial mortal bodies. You're fully mortal, therefore it is useless against you. There wasn't a single drop of godly blood within Naruto, so the celestial bronze would pass through him harmlessly. Just like Hephaestus said, Naruto touched the sharp edge of the sword, and he didn't feel anything at all. He could still feel the weight of this sword, and yet he didn't feel it cut him in the slightest. He then tried to do something more extreme. Putting his hand on the table, Naruto took out a celestial bronze knife and stabbed his hand with it. He waited for the pain, yet it never came. Don't worry, there's nothing I can't handle. Line break. What can I say? Hephaestus chuckled as he sat down on his chair, using a rag to wipe away his sweat. It wasn't every day that I have so many useful workers like this. He could use his machines, but it looked like Naruto and his clones worked more effectively. Clones could be seen everywhere around the large forge of Hephaestus, as they were doing everything they were assigned to, from sorting weapons to moving objects. With Naruto's superhuman strength, his clones made work look easier than usual. Clang! Careful, Hephaestus called out to the original, who was trying to make his very first weapon. You won't be able to get it into shape if you hit it too lightly. So I should hit it with more strength? Naruto grinned and went into sage mode, raising the hammer above his head. Fine. Then he slammed the hammer down the glowing hot sword. However, due to the strength he used behind that hammering was too great, it not only completely broke the incomplete sword in half, but also the table the anvil underneath used for crafting was sitting on as well. Naruto chuckled and put the hammer down. It didn't take him long to realize that he wasn't good at crafting like his brother. But this was just the beginning of Naruto Uzumaki's new adventure in this new world. Give up, Ares, Naruto said coolly as he blocked the massive broadsword swung to his head with the back of his bandaged and chakra reinforced hand. A handgun, as the god of war called it, appeared in his hand, and he instantly pointed it at Naruto's face, pulling the trigger not a second later. However, what he didn't expect was for Naruto to jerk his head out of the way so fast that Ares saw an afterimage, making the bullet miss its target. I'll say it again. It's no use. Naruto disarmed Ares by kicking his arm, only for the god to grab his little brother's foot and tug on it to throw him away. Naruto back flipped in the air and landed gracefully on the ground, using chakra to propel himself to an Ares' personal space, and using the momentum to bury his knee into the god's stomach, which was followed with a fast punch to the face. Artemis was right, Naruto mused as he sent the man who was double his size flying back like a ragdoll, smashing him head first into the outside wall of the throne room. A few hours ago, it had been 2 days since Naruto moved to his parents' world, and he had more or less gotten used to the godly realm. He spent half of his time here exploring every single square meter of the mountain, taking in everything that was in sight. To say Naruto was amazed by the incredible architecture of Mount Olympus was an understatement, as he had never seen something like this before, and Olympus truly lived up to its name as the home of the gods. He learned that aside from the winter solstice or the rare emergency meetings, the gods were free to go do whatever they wanted, taking care of their domains to make sure the mortal world would be functioning perfectly. His dad, Zeus, always appeared to remind Hera of her duty as the goddess of marriage. While Naruto's relationship with his father had become better, the blonde still hadn't forgiven Zeus for his affairs. 3 days away from winter solstice, and Naruto already got tired of the citizens of Olympus asking him about his name or how a mortal was able to get to Olympus. The only ones who knew about his existence were the Olympians, and it would take some time for the whole godly world to know about his existence. So he would have to wait till the yearly meeting of the Olympians to be known. Hephaestus was the only Olympians that always remained in Olympus, and Naruto spent a few hours every few days with his brother, helping him in the forge. Last night, he slept at his mother's temple, and everything about it gave him a warm, cozy feeling of familiarity, just as he expected from the house of the goddess of the perfect family. As a goddess, his mother didn't need to sleep like him, but he could feel her motherly love for him after waking up in the morning. It was 6 in the morning, and Naruto was still exploring his new home, passing the group of beautiful women called nymphs who occasionally went into giggling fits after stealing glances at him. Some of the minor gods greeted him, while others demanded to know his reason to be in their amazing presence. Naruto simply replaced himself with a wooden log every time they pestered him. Later, the blonde was standing in front of what seemed to be a giant metal block, with the metal doors closed together at the front and some kind of weird designs on top of it. Reaching into his pocket, Naruto pulled out the notebook he used to take note of everything Athena told him about Olympus, just in case he saw something new that didn't exist in his world. The blonde found out that the thing in front of was called an elevator, the only thing that connected Olympus to the mortal world or the Empire State Building, the highest building in New York City. Narrett scratched his chin, holding the notebook in front of him while moving his finger towards the control panel, curious what would happen if he pressed one of the buttons. But suddenly, the familiar strong and thick scent of perfume alerted Naruto as his notebook was taken from his hand. Turning to the side, Naruto saw the infamous goddess of love standing next to him, radiating beauty and sexuality like no other. "Good morning, handsome," the goddess of love giggled, and the notebook in her hand faded away as she closed the distance between them. Why are you bothering to write in that pesky notebook when I would be more than happy to give you a more private tour? She stood right in front of him, with Naruto a little taller than her, which gave him a very generous view of her cleavage. "Come on, let me show you everything." That was when Naruto realized something Aphrodite and Tsunade shared in common. They were both old, their appearance didn't match their age, and they both liked to expose their bust. Only Aphrodite was hundreds of times or so older than the Godame Hokage. Okay, since I don't have anything to do anyway, she didn't use that charm power of hers, so Naruto was more or less cool with that. Horror or not, cheating on his brother for thousands of years or not, she was a part of his big family, and he planned to spend some time to bond with each of them after all. But before they could make any step, Naruto's stomach suddenly grumbled loudly, making Aphrodite look at him in amusement and, as a woman, slight disgust. I'm kind of hungry." It wasn't like he didn't have breakfast before starting to wander around Olympus. His mother left him with a very healthy breakfast at her palace waiting for him when he wake up. The tradition breakfast any mother would make for their children in the morning, with bacon, eggs, sausage, beans, and toast. One of the most delicious breakfasts he ever had in his life. However, such breakfast only applied to the children of this world. He would need more than just a dish of that to fill him in the morning. "Okay, then let's make this a picnic, shall we?" Aphrodite clapped her hands together, and in a flash, her clothes changed to a white, tight-fitting top that clung to her upper body like a second skin, with a large pink heart at the middle, short jeans that barely reached her mid-thighs, and a white large hat on top of her head. In her hand was a basket. "Let's go." She instantly pulled Naruto with her. Since Hera wasn't on Olympus at the moment, this was the opportunity she was waiting for to get into Naruto's pants. "Hey, wait up!" he shouted after her. They arrived in a wide garden which acted as the mountain's park. But this place was more like a place to honor the Olympians, as he could see they're spread out, wearing different kind of armors and costumes and in different heroic poses. He even saw a statue of his father and mother, with his dad wearing some kind of a dress that showed off his massive muscles, holding his wife's hand as they leaned their head against each other. "Well, here you go." She reached her hands into the basket and pulled out a dark green bottle with 2 glasses. "I'm imagining a fancy hotel with champagne and candles when we have times together like this. But this is okay for now." "Champagne?" Naruto took the bottle and saw the word champagne written on it. "Some kind of wine?" "Why, yes." "Can you summon ramen databao?" Naruto asked with a smile, putting the bottle down. "Ramen? That Japanese starch?" She visited Japan many times before. Where do you think hentai anime and manga came from? So of course she would know about its national dishes. "Hey, it's the food of the go." Well, the food's more than worthy to be listed at the food of gods, since he learned that ambrosia and nectar were the only things gods ate. He couldn't call his favorite dishes the food of the gods anymore. Aphrodite looked at him like he was crazy, but shrugged it off. "Since I'm the goddess of love, I can only summon dishes that eaten in romantic dinners." She picked up the champagne bottle, combined this with a fancy restaurant with light music, long candles, roses, and complete privacy, and it would have everything a couple would like to have a good time. "What with that face?" she asked, nearly yelled. "Oh, all right then." Naruto nodded his head with a straight face. So can I have ramen? Sai, I told you I can't summon ramen. Tell Apollo to do that for you. She brought out a pink box wrapped in a beautiful white ribbon, but I have this, only the best kind of French chocolate, the richest and most scrumptious you can find. Naruto took a piece from her and threw it into his mouth. The chocolate was really bitter, and he wanted to spill it out the moment he took it in. This chocolate was way bitterer than the one he had in Konoha every once in a while. However, the more he chewed, the stranger it became. Naruto couldn't explain it with words. It was like bitter and sweet at the same time. He gulped the piece of chocolate down and felt heat spread all over his body. Wow, it's delicious, bitter at first, but yeah, can't say I have had such a unique flavor before, he told her, making Aphrodite giggle. Well, then have some more. She opened the bottle and poured a little into Naruto's glass. Have some of this too. Honey, she told him, smiling sweetly. Thank you. Naruto smiled and put the next piece of chocolate into his mouth. Taking the glass of wine from the beautiful goddess Aphrodite, can I ask you a question? Go on, she nodded her head. I know that my brother wasn't the best good-looking guy in the world, or even the godly world. Aphrodite then frowned, but why did you? There was always a reason for one's actions. Naruto had learned that with his life. Unlike his father, Aphrodite was the goddess of love, making her the one who understood love better than anyone else. Like Athena, the goddess of wisdom who represented her domains perfectly, Naruto could see that everything about Aphrodite was about love and lust. With his power, it was clear to him that his sister-in-law held no feelings for Hephaestus in the first place. Then how come she didn't marry Ares, her lover, as Kurama told him? But before he could finish his question, Naruto suddenly shot forward and grabbed Aphrodite's shoulders, pulling her out of the way just in time to avoid a gigantic axe swung down from above. The blonde steadied himself on the ground with the goddess of love behind him. His eyes focused on his attacker, Ares, the god of war. You have good reflexes, punk. I'll give you that. The god of war smirked, picking his axe up and putting it on his shoulder. Well, next time you try to teleport behind me, make sure not to do it with someone with big and clear blue eyes like Aphrodite in front of me, he told the god of war. The god's way of transportation was really annoying. If it wasn't for Aphrodite's eyes reflecting Ares, he didn't know if he would have reacted in time to pull Aphrodite out of the place or not. Ares, what the hell are you doing? The goddess of love asked angrily, and did you just try to attack us? The both of us? She nearly yelled. Stay away from my woman. Uzumaki, the goddess of war, was pretty angry right now. Combine that with his carnal needs that hadn't been satisfied by the one behind Naruto, one could say that he wasn't in the right mood for rejection, and I might just break some of your bones. First, she's Hephaestus' wife. Our sister-in-law, not your woman, Jack. A jackass. Naruto smirked. Second, why do I have the feeling that if we don't settle down right here, you will keep bugging me for a proper fight in the future? You got it, brat. He turned his eyes to Aphrodite. Get out of the way, woman. Your flesh will be a nice trophy after I finish little bro here in his place. He was as horny as hell, so maybe he was going to finish this fight fast and get his juicy reward. The fight started faster than the goddess of love could follow the moment Ares finished that statement. She felt her surrounding change magically. You stay here. She saw a Naruto clone standing next to her, and another making a jump to avoid Ares' giant axe 100 meters away from them. Boss told me to protect you. The Naruto standing next to her smiled and gave her a thumbs up. The goddess of love couldn't help but gasp. Even though she already saw this ability during Naruto's fight with Ares, she couldn't help but feel amazed and wonder if there was any more use to this power of cloning. You know that you're way too slow, Ares? Naruto said as he dodged all the sharp blades swung at his head, looking like he wasn't trying at all when he stepped to the side to avoid the god of war's attack. You bet, you little punk. Let's see if you're faster than this. An M16 appeared in his hand, and the god jumped back to make some distance, licking his lips in a sadistic manner before unloading a barrel of bullets at Naruto. But Ares never expected Naruto to be even faster than bullets. Naruto, actually wondering what kind of weapon was that, took a few milliseconds to examining the bullets coming at his head. But it didn't take a genius to know something with the pointing tip moving at that kind of speed was dangerous, as Naruto disappeared and reappeared even faster than those bullets, playing around with a wide grin. Oops, you missed me. Missed me again. Every time he appeared, he said with an amused tone. Pulling a kunai out from his pouch, the blonde chose a bullet and used the flat edge of his kunai to send it back. Here you go. The bullet went straight into the gun, much to Ares' shock. He didn't manage to stop his trigger in time, so his weapon exploded right in his face, the metal pieces smashed into his nose and his forehead, much to his anger. Damn, didn't know it could do that, Naruto smirked. Hey, where can I find one of them? Damn you, Ares roared and summoned a sword and shield, standing to his godly height, which completely towered over Naruto. What did the blonde manage to say before Ares smashed his shield down to the ground? But Naruto was faster and kicked into the celestial bronze surface, launching out of the way before the sword can get in contact with his head. Naruto then took several feet back, gathering natural energy in just a matter of seconds before shooting himself forward with his fist brought back. You know what people say about size? Naruto shouted as Ares raised his shield to block. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. Naruto punched the shield with incredible amount of force and did something Ares would never think about. The ground underneath them cracked, and a giant hole then appeared because of the collision between Naruto's fist and the shield. Ares gasped when he felt the force of Naruto's punch actually went through the hard shield itself and smashed into his body, sending him flying without anything to stop him. Ares flew like a bullet, going through building after building, which didn't do anything to decrease the speed. The god of war roared out in shock when he was shot out of Olympus, passing over the edge and falling freely down to the city below. Damn you, Uzumaki! The blonde heard him roar out in anger. Suck it, jackass. Naruto stood straight up, but the hell now. In a red flash, Ares once again appeared behind him with a gigantic broadsword in hand. Haven't you realized that it's no use against me? Present. It wasn't like Naruto enjoyed doing this anyway, beating the holy crap out of his brother. It made him feel like Sasuke years ago. Yield, Ares, Naruto said as he knocked the god of war down to the ground, whose face covered in bruises and cuts. Godly endurance was something really new to him. He didn't think that someone could receive such a beating like this and stay conscious. But thanks to Athena, he perfectly understood the god's limit and didn't hold anything back. I think he had enough. Aphrodite appeared next to him with the help of his clone. Thanks. Handsome, she winked at the clone, getting a laugh from him before disappearing away in a puff of smoke. The goddess of love clicked her finger, and a few nymphs appeared, bowing their head to the goddess of love. Bring him to Apollo's palace, girls, the goddess of love said. Yes, Lady Aphrodite, they said at once, and brought a half-conscious Ares away. Naruto. Aphrodite turned around to face the blonde, who was dusting himself. I have never seen Ares being beaten around like that before. You were incredible. Thanks for the compliment. Naruto grinned at her. Ares might be the god of war, but he didn't seem to have the fighting skills to back it up like Artemis. So handling him wasn't such a difficult task for Naruto anyway. Can I have some more of that? The rest of Naruto's morning was spent in the goddess of love's company, listening to her rant about candy and trying out everything she could summon. These chocolate and candy tasted really good. The champagne was outstanding, but he still preferred ramen over the other. Line break. Later that night, find a book called Greek Mythology, and you will understand why I cheat on your brother. Aphrodite's last words for him resounded in his head as Naruto headed to Athena's palace, the only place he could think of that had the information he was searching for. He didn't like this feeling one bit, but the closer he got to Athena's palace, the more he felt himself worried about it, like he was about to discover a horrible truth. Aphrodite told him that the book was about the mortals' point of view about the gods they worshipped, and she did warn him that not everything inside that book was a nice thing to read. She said that it was going to change his point of view about this world, that he would never look at his parent in the same way again. Naruto was totally shocked by the goddess of love's words, and it made him want to find out the truth even more than before. Knock, knock, knock. He knocked on Athena's temple's door 3 times, hoping that she was here. He waited for 10 seconds before the stormy gray-eyed goddess opened the door. She seemed to be a little surprised when she saw Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing here at this time? Time was meaningless for a god, but for a mortal like him, it meant a lot. Athena, can I use your library? The goddess of wisdom widened her eyes a little. I want to borrow some books. The sound of something falling snapped Athena out of her train of thought. The book she was reading was closed as she stood up from her seat and walked over to the direction the noise came from, looking at the door that led to her personal, huge library, only to nearly gasp in shock upon seeing some of the bookcases lying on the ground stacked on each other. What the? A scowl made it to her face when she remembered who was in there. The only person she gave full admission to enter. You gotta be kidding me, Athena muttered under her breath. Moreover, here she thought this child of Zeus and Hera was better than his warmonger brother, who once made all the bookcase of her library collapse the same way his younger brother did today. She stomped towards the library section of her palace with the intent to kill the one who was destroying her collection. But before she could even reach the place, an orange blur went past her before she could even see what it was. Slightly knocked back because of the wind caused by the speed of the movement, Athena ignored the strange phenomenon and continued to walk to her library. Just like she thought, every single bookcase had fallen to the ground. Books were lying all around the floor of her library, and for someone like Athena, this looked like her worst nightmare. The worst part was that there was a bookcase on the wall at the other side of the room, which looked like it was punched across the room and stuck to the wall. Looking around, Athena tried to search for the destroyer of her library, but couldn't find anyone other than herself standing inside it. Curious, Athena recalled the orange blur and realized it must have been Naruto trying to get out of the place before she could get to him. Sighing, Athena clicked her fingers and everything was slowly moving back into place. But something caught her eyes when she picked up a few books on the ground. It was lying open on the table used for reading. Her eyes widened when she realized what that book was about. Greek mythology. At the same time, Naruto ran. He ran like never before across the field of Olympus, crossing streets at lightning speed and almost knocking over a handful of minor gods. His body was covered in Kurama's chakra. His eyes' pupils were showing the combination of Sage Mode and Bija Mode. Through the use of Senjutsu, he could feel them all, every single immortal being living on Olympus, including his family. When he reached the cliff, Naruto did the first thing anyone with a lot of troubles on his mind would do, if he had balls of steel, that is. He took the jump. He had enough of this place. He wanted to go somewhere else. He wanted to have some alone time to clear his mind. Naruto, don't! His head snapped to the side and saw the beautiful love goddess Aphrodite standing there with her hand reached out, her eyes wide and her mouth wide opened in shock. She probably thought he was doing something very stupid, which according to common sense he was. It wasn't like falling from the floating mountain above the highest building of New York could kill him. However, her shout made him slip a bit. His right foot slammed into the balcony, making Naruto lose his balance and fall off Olympus head down. Shit. Fuck you, Aphrodite. That was the only curses he knew. He had read it from a book he borrowed from Athena's collection when she was in his world. Naruto twisted his body in the air, balancing himself before pressing both of his arms as close to his body as he could. His feet stuck together in order to eliminate most of the wind resistance. Mount Olympus was the highest point he had ever jumped from, so hopefully he would be able to land on the ground without any broken bones. Naruto. Some of things he read from Greek mythology, everything that was written from the mortal's point of view, were sickening and downright horrifying. Aphrodite had told him to read it to find out the reason behind her affairs. He did find it, along with a lot of interesting things about his family, though he was not so sure he should be calling them that now. However, what made him sad, not angry, but very, very sad, was that most of it came from his own parents. He didn't think that he could look at them the same way again. His parents. The Empire State Building was in sight. Naruto once again twisted his body on the air so both of his feet could make the contact with the building. His chakra moved from his stomach to the cores of his feet, ready to stick to the vertical surface of the building. With his amazing skills and control, Naruto managed to land both of his feet on the vertical surface of the building. His hand reached out and stuck to the building, also having a large yet controlled quantity chakra on them to slow him down. Naruto slid on the hard surface of the building, slowly decreasing his falling speed. The mist will cover you, so don't worry, Kurama advised him after realizing that he just slid across a window with a man standing on the inside, holding window wiper in his hand. How does that work anyway? Naruto asked, mostly to himself. Unlike the elemental nations, Earth had something called the mist, which covered the mortal's eyes from the unnatural things around them. As far as he was concerned, he wasn't affected by the mist, and he was very pleased to know that. Not knowing what happened around him was not a good thing, especially for a shinobi. When his speed finally returned to normal, he took a strong jump, cracking the window a bit. Landing on the ground as gently as he could, Naruto fixed his jacket and looked around. This was his first time in the mortal world, New York to be exact, but he was not keen on traveling and sightseeing. Line break. More Naruto told the barmaid with a very lazy tone. Aren't you too young to drink this much? She asked, her hand pouring the wine into Naruto's cup, and he once again drank it in one gulp. Old enough to kill. Old enough to drink, Naruto muttered to himself. That statement was something he got from some drunk shinobi drinking with each other after a day of hard work. Strange. What is this wine anyway? It wasn't like he never drank before. After all, most of his role models were either an alcoholic, Tsunade, or perverts with a love for bars, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Iruka, even if the latter would not admit it. Drink to forget, Naruto thought. As soon as he found out a place that resembled the bars around the elemental nations, he went in despite having no money to pay for the fees later. Naruto immediately ordered the strongest drink they had and began to drink himself silly. He didn't remember how many times he had asked the waitress to fill his cup, but the last time he stopped counting, it was an hour ago. Vodka. The waitress shook her head before heading to serve someone else after filling Naruto's cup once again. Wondering how someone as young as him could handle so much alcohol, she didn't complain either way. As long as the guy had money, he could kill himself for all she cared. Naruto kept on drinking for another hour before reaching his limit, his vision a little blurry. Not because he was drunk, but the fact that there were so many things on his mind. Folding his hands on the table, Naruto rested his head against them and closed his eyes. No sooner did he do that, he found something interesting happening right in front of him. I usually do not drink, the woman who just sat down on the chair beside him said, but I think I will make an exception this time. Give me the same thing he's having, she told the waitress casually. The beautiful woman was drawing a lot of attention from the opposite sex around the bar with her incredible beauty. Not to mention, she was also sitting next to quite a specimen. Aunt Hestia, a small smile, made it to his face when he realized who she was. Did my parents tell you to come here to get me? No, Naruto, Hestia said softly, I came here by myself. The goddess of the hearth moved her fingers and smiled sadly at him. How does it feel, Naruto? She asked him even though she knew most of the answer. Naruto didn't why, but he felt as if the only one he could trust right now with his problems was Hestia. Sad? Yes, hurt? Probably betrayed? Of course tricked? Sure. Angry? Not really. He muttered under his breath, even though she could hear him loud and clear. He then turned his head to the goddess and Hestia. How can you put up with them for so long? You're a kind and very peaceful goddess, and probably the only one who is still in my good book. Because they're my family, Naruto, Hestia said softly. So it was true, Naruto muttered. He still had some doubts over what he read, but now he finally found out it was all real. Family doesn't throw their member from Olympus to the ground when he was a baby. Naruto said with the emotionless tone, family doesn't fight over each other to decide who is the most beautiful, which results in a war killing thousands of people. The list went on and went on, to the point Naruto hardly believed that some of them were real. I don't know what to do anymore, Aunt Hestia. Naruto grabbed his face. Looking at the glass of vodka in front of him, they're my parents, and yet they did something unforgivable. So randomly, just because they are gods and powerful. He then thought about Aphrodite. They forced Aphrodite to marry my brother, someone who she clearly doesn't love. Despite everything she did, how could they force a love goddess to marry someone she doesn't love? For someone who is just getting used to this world, this is a lot to take in, isn't it? Naruto couldn't help but nod his head. I need time to think, time to accept this. Those were the things they did in the past, and I can't change it, he whispered and drank his wine in one gulp. The past is the past. The only thing I can do now is to look at the future. Then suddenly a lightning bolt struck. Said lightning bolt seemed more powerful than normal ones. Zeus is calling for a meeting of the Olympians. Sooner or later they will come searching for you, Naruto, Hestia told him, pulling out a stack of dollars and giving it to the barmaid. I will let them try, Naruto muttered. I don't think I should return to Olympus at this time, Annie. I might blow the whole place up if I do so, he said truthfully. He really wanted to blow something up right now. Can you not tell them? Of course, Naruto. I respect your decision, Hestia nodded her head, but what are you going to do now? I don't know. But I think I can manage to find something to do to pass time and know what I need to do. To me, and also the ones living in the sky, Naruto said, it's too bad that now I don't have any way to go back to the elemental nations. You can find that help from me, Naruto, Hestia smiled at him. If you want, I can secretly bring you back to your home in the elemental nations. But you have to promise me that you won't stay there forever. This place, this family needs someone like you, Naruto, she said. I will, Annie. Naruto nodded his head. leaning his head back against his chair and closing his eyes. In the blink of an eye, Hestia disappeared, as if she never sat next to him in the first place.